Good evening, you're watching News Report on channel 112 Live TV on your Top Star decoder. My name is KAMOTA MAYONDI.
And I'm SALIFYANJI. Good evening.
Yes, how are you today, Sally?
I'm well, thank you.
Yes,
how are you?
I'm
Today
very
has
well.
been rather too cold, and I know you and I both hate the cold weather.
We're not very big on the cold, but also the week seems to have been really escaping us. It's been such a quick week. It's already Thursday, so yeah, getting right into it. On the Thursday episode of News Report, the stories that we're leading with this evening: COVID hits Parliament, Airtel shuts down head office, Chitalo Chilufya pleads not guilty, and police manhandle Kada, Obama, Kardashian, other Twitter accounts hacked in a Bitcoin scam. And now we get into our first story, where the Minister in charge of Health, Dr. Chitalo Chilufya, has pleaded not guilty to 4 counts of possessing property suspected to be the proceeds of crime involving assets located in Wapula province. And so Dr. Chilufya appeared before the Chief Resident Magistrate, Lamek Mwale, to take the particular plea. So between the 1st of December 2016 and the 31st of December 2017, Dr. Chilufya allegedly possessed $200,000, which was used to purchase 6,000 shares in Samfia Marines and Tourism Services. And in another count, Dr. Chilufya was found to be in possession of allegedly found to be in possession of 270,000 kwacha, which was used to purchase 2,000 shares in Samfia Marines and Tourism. And in another count, in between dates 1st January and 31st December 2019, to be in possession of 3 million kwacha, which was used to purchase plot number 366 of Luapula province, a property reasonably suspected of being proceeds of crime. And earlier we had a story where the initial court case could not proceed due to the unruly behavior of PF cadres who went to sympathize with Dr. Chilufya. And in today's story, Dr. Chilufya, who was represented by lawyers Tutwangulube and Jonas Zimba, where he pled not guilty to the charges brought forth against him. And meanwhile, today, a PF cadre was manhandled by the police in Lusaka Magistrate Complex for using a traffic blue light and forcing his way into the secured magistrate court where the court proceedings were happening. And like we said earlier last week, these particular proceedings were unable to go through because of unruly behavior by PF sympathizers. Today, police had sealed off the Lusaka Magistrate Court as early as 6 hours to ensure that only authorized people had access to the court. So the Deputy Inspector of Police in charge of operations, Bonnie Kapeso, was on hand to ensure that no repeat incident or disturbances happened, and only a limited number of people were allowed entry to the court. So we'll take a look at the particular clip and we'll come back and just delve a little bit deeper into the story.
Put him in custody. Put him in custody. Bring him here. Bring him. Put him in custody. Outside there. Let's go.
And there we have some footage from outside the Lusaka Magistrate Court. And we'll go to a quick break and we'll be back with an interview with SALIFYANJI. Stay tuned. You're watching News Report, and this is us seeing you in a little bit.
Welcome back, and you're still watching News Report with me, SALIFYANJI BWEUPE. And before we went on a break, we actually introduced that we'll be having a very interesting interview, and we are looking at load shedding and smart meters. So we are joined by Dr. John KUNDA, the Senior Manager of Corporate Affairs from ZESCO. Dr. John, welcome to News Report.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Indeed. Okay, so we get right into
Yes.
it. Last month, ZESCO announced that it will be rolling out on smart meters that will enable it to remotely turn off some appliances in users' houses. Can you kindly give us a breakdown on the development of that?
Yeah, this is an interesting conversation that we're having.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let me put the context
Okay.
within which the conversation emerged.
Mm-hmm.
We were discussing load shedding,
Mm-hmm.
and that load shedding is not the core business of
Sure.
ZESCO Limited. Load shedding is not good for business on the ZESCO side as well as on the customer side. And we were emphasizing that load shedding as it stands is as a result of very difficult climate conditions that we have experienced.
Sure.
And our managing director did emphasize that we are now putting in place what we are calling the YPOD 19, which is managing the weather-induced power deficit. Weather-induced power deficit means that the current deficit that we have in the generation of power is as a result of external factors, climatic conditions. And the reason we are in this quagmire or difficult situation in Zambia is because there was no massive investments, in the generation of power. In the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, and early 2000s. Had people invested, our leaders invested in the early 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2000s, we wouldn't be having the deficit that we have. That's why we find ourselves in a challenging situation where we are depending on Kariba, and when the water levels have receded, then you cannot generate at full capacity.
Sure.
Hence the deficit.
Okay.
So our discussion was based on the weather-induced power deficit of the year 2019, hence WIPOD 19. And what we were saying is that between May and September, people should expect to experience load shedding hours of between 8 to 12 hours. Then from October right through November and December, we are going to reduce the hours of load shedding to between 8 and 4 hours. Then thereafter, our hope is that all variables being equal, such as the firing of the machine at Kafue Gorge Lower, the first machine will come in October, first week of October.
Right.
Then the second machine comes in November. Then load shedding will continue to gradually reduce. That being said, we are hoping that gradual trend will trickle down now to the customer. That's how the conversation emerged. But then we also insisted that load management is not just the responsibility of ZESCO. Customers also can play a role by, when you're at home and you are not using certain electrical appliances in your home, when you turn off those appliances, you are conserving energy, which can be channeled and may lead to a reduction in the extent of load shedding or load management. That's when the question came up. Someone asked and said, but how does that work? And the MD explained that in the current scenario, the network that we have is not intelligent to balance itself. As a result, if the system collapses or trips, we have to depend on customers to call ZESCO Limited for us to resolve the issue. But we are hoping that we transition to a smarter system, much more intelligent system that is self-regulating and self-balancing. It can restrict how much power is going in a particular circuit. And that way, we can manage the load, electrical energy load within a particular system.
Right.
For now, if there is a fault at your home, we have to come to your home. Or you have to call us first, because we want to know. If a circuit trips in Mukushi, we need someone to call us. And then we send a team of drivers and technicians to go and rectify the fault. But we'd like to go to a place where the system, the entire network, the grid, from generation, transmission, to the distribution of power, that should become visible to ZESCO. So that if there's a problem, immediately we know. That's how smart meters come in. Smart grid and then smart meters. Just like you have a smartphone now.
But many may wonder to say, why is ZESCO investing $40 million
US dollars,
into the project for load management as opposed to finding alternative power sources or generation?
Again, this is not investment for load management. No. A smart grid and smart meter system is not about load shedding. Load shedding is a minor hiccup. It's a crisis. So you don't plan for a crisis and invest in order to sustain a crisis. No. The smart grid and smart metering system is for the entire portfolio of assets that ZESCO has, so that it becomes fully automated and fully intelligent. I'll give you examples. If we are generating power from...
So you're just clearing to say it's not for the exact meters, but for
No, it's not just the meter. The meter is a smaller component, of the entire smarter grid.
Exactly.
Yeah, because our network is not intelligent. Our network is not smart. I'll give you examples. I'll give you fuller explanations as I relate it to the developments in the technological industry. So what is obtaining is that for now, ZESCO would like to have a scenario where we can monitor what's happening at the generation point. At the same time, when we are transmitting power, we would like to know that the power that we are producing is getting to the customer with minimal losses on the way.
Okay.
So as we distribute that power. At the same time, we would like you as a customer to know how much power you're using in your home. Now, if I asked you to check on your smartphone what the balance is of your units at home, you won't be able to do it. Why? Because the meter that is at home is not smart. The grid is not smart. If there is a fault, you won't know. Yeah, I should be able to load my tokens using my phone. I can't do that today. Why? Because the system is not smart. If there is a fault in Kalingalinga, I won't know because the network is not visible. So smart grid is an entire sum of a collectivity of technological advancement so that we can manage the portfolio of assets better. We don't have 40 million sitting in an account. Neither are we getting a loan of $40 million from somebody. What we are saying is that moving forward, we need to move with time and advance our network so that it is much more technologically speaking to the modern times. So what will be happening is that if you apply for a meter, I am not going to give you an old meter. We are giving you a much more advanced meter. Like the meters that we have are different from the meters that were installed probably 5 years ago. Most of the meters that we are giving you are slightly much better, technologically much improved than the ones that we installed 5 years ago. Sure. So what we are saying is if you come for a new installation, as we begin to roll out this program, you'll get a newer meter. Then we'll continue in a gradual process to implement this process until we finish all the 1.1 million customers in a 5-year time frame. At the end, when we sit back and take stock of what we would have spent, we are estimating $40 million as the total cost, somewhere in the range of $8 per meter per year for 5 years per customer. So that's what we're talking about. This money is not here, and it's not being spent in lump sum. This is money that is going to be calculated having implemented the full project over a period of 5 years.
So is this a projection?
That's a projection of how much we are going to spend once we complete installing the meters as well as making the system smarter. Now, you asked an important question. Why would you invest, why wouldn't you invest that 40 million in the generation of power so that you reduce load shedding?
Sure.
You're talking about $40 million. Already we are spending in the range of about $20 million per year for these current meters that we have. Now, let me give you a simple example of how much ZESCO is spending on infrastructure in power generation. Kafue Gorge Lower, which is our flagship project, is going to produce about 750 megawatts of power. It is costing ZESCO Limited $2.3 billion US. We are projecting to invest in Batoka, which is going to cost ZESCO $4 billion US. We're investing in Luapula Hydro, which is going to cost about $3 billion. Lusiwasi Lower, 86 megawatts of power, is going to cost $183 million US. You are talking about a portfolio of investments that's worth billions and billions of dollars. Why would you really want to use human error or human beings to manage this entire billions worth of investments instead of using an automated system? If you have 2 trucks that you are managing as a small business, and then you grow your business to 15, 20 trucks, wouldn't you want to invest in a smarter system to track your the movements of your trucks? Like a tracking, invest maybe 2,000, 10,000 kwacha in a smart device system that will be able to trace your trucks. That's what ZESCO is doing. We are saying we are moving with time and we are innovators. We want people not to look at ZESCO and say, ZESCO is inefficient. We want to minimize and reduce the inefficiency so that we can become smarter. We don't need to send drivers into Kalingalinga. We can actually control some of the load from the central command. That's what we are talking about.
Sure thing. If you're just joining us right now, we are joined by Dr. John Kunda, and we're looking at load shedding and smart meters. If you have any comments or contributions, please be sure to send your text messages to 0976 599 547. So I wanted to find out, Doctor, When it comes to the replacement of the meters or the smart meters themselves, do consumers have to apply, or it's a mandate? Everyone has to have a smart meter in the house?
Thank you. So what we are saying, you remember when we were transitioning from a post-paid meter to the prepaid meter, there was some resistance. People felt, why are you doing this? Why are you changing? But now we feel that customers have much more control. They will know how many units they have if they go and check, and then they can load their units. So it's and then you don't have this back and forth on no, the bill is wrong. The bill that you sent me, that's not the power that I consumed, and all that. With a smarter system, we would like to give power to the client or to the customer to have certain features that will be operative within that smarter system. Let me give you an example. If you have a solar system at your home, the meter that you currently have is only a one-way meter. It communicates only from the energy that you are drawing from the system. There is no information coming in from what you are consuming or from your solar that you can feed into the grid. The future would be that we'd like you to feed into the system, right? So that you can gain, because it's like you'll be selling your power. Currently, you can't, because the meter is a one-way. We'd like to have a two-way communication system. Secondly, you know that ZESCO Limited has one of the biggest, if not the largest, fiber optic infrastructure in the country. So connectivity for us, in terms of moving a notch higher, in terms of being technologically smart, we already have the backbone. We already have the infrastructure.
Don't you think there'll be more complaints then if it works like that, where you have to connect it to like monitoring of the usage of electricity in homes?
No. It's no. And again, that's another misconception. What's going to be what is going to be happening is a scenario where we may not have the capability to have cameras to see what is happening in your house.
Okay.
No. When we talk about maintaining the load of energies in the grid or in the system, what we are saying is that, for example, if there is a fault in Matero today or in Central Choma, if there is a fault in one particular area, what ZESCO does is simply to take you off. They will switch everybody off. There is no way we can isolate. Okay. At the same time, even with load management, there are people complaining, no, but in our neighborhood there is power. In the other area, there is no power. So it's because the system is not so visible and not so intelligent. So it becomes very difficult to isolate circuits. That's what we are talking about. Okay. But with a smarter system, you are able to control from a central command. You'll be able to see, there's a problem in this network. There's too much load. If we allow the situation to be like that, everything is going to trip and everyone will be in darkness. So once you know in advance, the system will be able to balance itself because it is set in an automatic way, because you're using technology. And technology is programmed in such a way that if there's too much load, it is self-balancing. So I'll give you an example to answer the question of switching off. When you reduce and restrict the amount of power going in a particular area, what you are doing effectively is that if there's an overload, certain things may not come on at that particular time until the system rebalances. So you're avoiding tripping. Sure. So you still have power. Okay. But you will notice that if you're trying to weld, the machine may have challenges coming on until the system has stabilized. Yeah, but that only happens when there's a crisis. But we are foreseeing Zambia having excess power. That's the future. Okay. The future is not load shedding. Sure. Load shedding is a minor hiccup within the longer trajectory of development.
Even if it's not the future, but that is the biggest complaint that every consumer has at this particular point.
We should, yeah.
And I just wanted to also find out, how much is ZESCO saving anything from this particular project? Are you saving more?
So absolutely. And that's what, again, smart meters is smaller to the smarter grid.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll give you practical examples so that you and I are on the same wavelength. Load shedding is crisis management. That's what it is. Load shedding is crisis management. We are managing a crisis which is induced by climate change and shifts. ZESCO has invested heavily from 2012 to date. We have Kafiwe Gauge Lower. I talked about Musonda Falls. I talked about Lusiwasi. And we are projecting that we are going to start having excess power.
True.
That is an indubitable fact. It's a given.
Okay.
Now, currently, if you remember what we used to do before, we would send meter readers. We had about 1,000 employees going in the field to read meters every day. With a prepaid meter, we eliminated that major cost, right? Most of the maximum demand customers today are not on prepaid meters because prepaid meters have not been good for business. We are testing this smart meter system for these maximum demand customers. These are business institutions. These are companies. They're big companies.
Yeah, because I was about to ask the distinctive between household consumption and also the industries.
Maximum demand.
Would that also apply to the
smart
industries?
metering system? Yes. So I want to come to that. The pilot that we've been running is about 500 units have been placed in customer places.
Sure.
So in maximum demand customers, these are commercial customers. You have some in Eastern Province, Ndola, Lusaka, Southern Province. So they are dotted around the country for 2 years, and they've been running. Right. What used to happen is that for business houses, they would have to wait for someone to go and take the readings, come back to the office, compute what they've consumed, and then give them a bill.
Right.
With a smarter system, we are going to have instant feedback. This is where the customer will know how much they are consuming and how much it is costing them. Instantly, without having to wait and having that back and forth on the bill. Currently, if there is a fault in Chawama or in Samfia, you have to pick up the phone as a customer. Try and call the call center, then you have a problem, you can't get through the call center. But what would we like to have is a situation where we can't send drivers into these areas. We don't have to send a team to Mkushi. We don't have to send a team to Vubwi. We will know that there is a fault in this particular area, and if it's something that we can resolve remotely, we'll be able to resolve it. That is a benefit that accrues as a result of having a smarter system with a smart metering system.
Right.
Banking has done the same. It's smart banking. You're using your phone. You don't have to walk into the bank.
Right.
Medicine, telemedicine, that's what they're doing. Smart cars, our friends are actually using artificial intelligence to manage some of their infrastructure.
Right.
Why wouldn't ZESCO be moving with time in terms of technological innovation? Why should people want ZESCO to simply sit and use analog systems when everybody else is talking about smarter systems and they've gone digital?
Sure.
So what we are saying is let's all go digital, and this is going to be gradual. It's not happening at once. And over a period of 5 years, by the year 2025, ZESCO is going to be supplying power to places as far as East Africa, Kenya.
Sure.
We'll be supplying power to Zimbabwe, South Africa, and all those places. Do we really want to depend on human effort to manage the entire network that goes across countries and goes regional, and we are the regional hub? That's why we are investing in this network of intelligent systems that will be able to give us feedback instantly and will be able to better manage the system for the benefit of the customer.
Okay. I think we do have a text message from our viewers. Okay, so this one says, how are you going to control the load of the client? Are you going to be switching off, for example, fridges or stoves without the owner's permission?
No.
That's coming from Musonda within Lusaka. Thank you, Musonda, for that text message.
No. Again, that's another misconception. So ZESCO is not going into people's homes to restrict.
And thank you for clarifying.
No. ZESCO, we can manage. Currently what's happening is that when there is energy, a system is energized, right?
Sure.
If you overload it, because you are welding and you are doing a lot of things, you know what it does? It simply trips, and everyone else does not have power.
Sure.
But we'd like to have a system that responds to problems of fluctuations, for example, in the network itself or in the grid. That way, you reduce downtime. Yeah, so you don't have these trippings and all that. The switching off that we are talking about is you as individuals, as families, can now install certain gadgets in your homes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can install certain gadgets in your home on the geyser. You can install on the fridge. You can install that will be able to speak to the smart meter, so that you can restrict your own power consumption in your home. You can segregate which appliance do you want, switched on at a particular time. Because some of us like our geysers, you know, and you leave it on for 7 hours,
Are these
5
gadgets
hours.
going to be sold?
It's up to you. You can buy.
From ZESCO?
It's up to you. Not necessarily. No, not necessarily.
Why,
For example,
why can't you
let me
also
give you.
provide those
Well,
alternatives?
we can think about it. We are in the business of
Exactly,
generating,
yeah.
transmitting, and distributing
Sure.
power. So, for example, I can open my gate using my mobile phone. Right here. Someone can go to my place, simply press a button, then I'll receive a call. I'll ask them, who are you and what do you want? And then I can open the gate for them from here.
Sure.
ZESCO, I'm doing it at a household level.
Exactly.
ZESCO has invested billions and billions of dollars in huge assets and infrastructure. Would like to manage that infrastructure much more intelligently using the available technological tools that we have now. The world has moved. The future is technology. And ZESCO is moving with time. That's why we are insisting that we'll continue upgrading. For your own information, our newer generation plants are fully automated. They are smarter. They are much more intelligent. So it means that even the transmission lines and the distribution lines must speak so that the entire network is much smarter.
Sure. Now, there are some residential areas
Yes,
that
ma'am.
also have markets. And you
Yes.
mentioned some people that would be welding. Obviously, the welding is taking place at a certain market.
Yes, in
is there
commercial
a
places.
specific arrangement with the those consumers or the business owners from the market to be using a certain type of energy or power at that particular point?
Yeah, it's, we encourage our customers, our clients, and I was talking to some from Chawama and McKinney Simpson today. When you buy for 100 kwacha as a commercial client, you get about 78 units, right? And that's good for you. But if you're using a residential tariff, it's going to cost you as a business person. So it's always good. ZESCO is available to advise clients on how much power they are using so that they can benefit. So if you are involved in welding, you want to know how much power you need per month for your welding so that you can budget. Otherwise, you may think you are making money, but all your money is going to energy and labor. But if you come in and our engineers will be able to guide you and advise you. But with a smarter meter, you can tell actually from the time that you start welding, you will know how much power you are consuming. And the system will begin to tell you. And you have that record yourself, so you'll be able to adjust and control how much power you are using. So again, the smart meters are not about load shedding. The smart meters are about having control. The people in the home should know what is using their power, how their power is being consumed, and how best they can control that. So you can automate it. You can actually have certain features on your phone that you at home you can restrict, that people shouldn't be in the house, shouldn't be abusing power. Like with your DSTV, there are certain restrictions that you can put. But with a smarter system, you can actually switch off certain things remotely. You have more power and control over, even with your security lights. You can create a situation where you can turn off some of your security lights. I use the sensors because I want to control the amount of energy that I'm consuming. Okay. So that's what we are talking about.
Sure thing. So now, how do we control load shedding?
How do we control?
How is ZESCO coming in to reduce on load shedding? Because that is the cry of most consumers.
Yes. And again, it's a cry of ZESCO as well.
Sure.
Load shedding is not enjoyed by ZESCO. ZESCO is not happy with load shedding. Because it's a drain on the business. We are not making money because it's like you sell tomatoes and then you refuse to produce tomatoes. How is that making business sense? We make money from selling power. How can we be proud not to sell that power?
Okay.
So I want to explain. Load shedding is not the core business of ZESCO. As painful as it is to our customers, so much painful it is also to us as an institution. So what is our plan? We have found ourselves in a crisis and we are rationing power in order to manage ourselves out of the crisis using what we call weather-induced power deficit 19 strategy. That's what we are doing. We have invested heavily in power generation. We have also invested in solar and we have invested in wind energy. Having that energy mix demands that you have an automated, intelligent system. So that if there is no sun, the sun is not there, right? Then it ramps up power generation from the hydro side. And then when there is too much sun and you are getting a lot of power from solar, you want the solar to go up and the hydro to go down. You don't want human beings to be doing that. You want that to be fully automated and fully intelligent using the current technological advances so that we can provide you an efficient resource. We can give you an efficient service. So that's what we are doing. So load shedding is going to become a rumor very soon. By October, as I've already told you, between now and September, it is between 8 to 12 hours of load shedding. October, December, it is between 4 to 8 hours of load shedding. Now, the first machine kicks in October at Kafue Gorge Lower. And once we have the entire 750 megawatts of power there, we should be operating between 0 and 4 hours of load shedding. Now, with the other investments coming in, load shedding is going to become a rumor. And we are on course to becoming the regional hub for power generating in the region.
Speaking proudly of it, I just wanted to find out,
yes,
before then, you would send out schedules to people
yes,
on load shedding and everything else. Why
yes.
have you stopped communicating to the general public?
Stinareke, mami. Stinareke. We are still communicating.
Because what we feel is that there are certain areas that are more favored than other areas.
No, that's a different one. That's a different question. Let's speak first to the question of have we stopped? No. Even today, I shared the July load shedding schedule, and we actually publish it in the papers. We publish it on social media. We share it with friends. It's there, and we haven't stopped sending it. I even received text messages. If you're not receiving a text message, please call our call center and make sure you are registered. Maybe your landlord receives, or if you are renting, then the landlord may not be sharing that information. So we do share, and we will continue sharing. We will ramp up so that we use the social media, we use the national television, print media, so that we make sure people know. For now, I'll even share with you our YPOD 19, which will constantly remind you that between now and September, this is how much load shedding you'll be experiencing. Then October, December, this is how much you're going to experience. Right. You asked a question about segregation.
Yes.
Yes, there is some segregation.
Why?
Let me tell you the segregation that is there. Because the system is not smart and intelligent and not properly isolated, what happens is that if there's a line going to UTH and you are connected to that line, you are less likely to experience load shedding. If you are in a vital installation that feeds, for example, fiber, optical, a nerve center of some critical installation, and you are benefiting from that line, you are less likely to experience load shedding. That is the kind of segregation that you may see. Now, it may not be visible, but there are serious considerations that are taken in ensuring that a certain place only receives a certain amount of load shedding.
Am I right to think that someone in the transmission room or pressing buttons to switch off this area and that area? Or probably they fall asleep and forget to switch off?
No, absolutely not. That is highly, it's not just one person.
Sure.
The schedule and how it is rolled out is a highly deliberate interactive decision that is made, very strategic decision, made at the highest level of the institution. And once it's done, we operate in such a way that we ensure we do not inconvenience the running of the economy. We do not inconvenience social services. I'll give you another example. Kwamwena. If you are going to Mutumbi area, the first part of that area does not usually experience load shedding. You know why? It's because that's where the water resource is getting its electricity line from. So if we switch off that area, you know what happens? Then the entire households in Kwamwena do not have access to water. So they would rather, they're in the darkness a bit, but they have water. So the other area is exempt because the line on which that particular area is serviced from also feeds vital installations. We want our health centers to continue running. So there are various considerations to ensure that the economy is running, the economy is vibrant, because we are the nerve center of economic activity.
Sure thing. Now let's talk vandalism.
Yes, ma'am.
How much does that weigh on ZESCO towards
vandalism
and how do you control it?
Vandalism negatively affects not just ZESCO, but also the country and our clients. I received a call from Mushiri in Indola, where this person really wrote a lot of unpalatables, insults. And I called the engineers to find out why there was extended load shedding, supposedly, in that area. But the engineer said, our people in the area had actually punctured and stolen one of the biggest cables. One of them actually got burnt, and we thank God that he has survived, because every life is sacred. You have cases in Ndola and Kitwe and Northwestern Province, Solwezi, where people go in with saw chains and cut the poles down just to steal the contactors and to get some of the cables that they sell for scrap metal. And they do that even on live systems. In Ballaston, there are cases where people go in and siphon the oil from the transformers. Can you imagine? Siphoning out the transformer. Then the transformer gets burnt. Then people have no power for 2 days or 3 days. Vandalism is an evil that steals from the public good. It steals from the people. You're not stealing from ZESCO. You're stealing from people who should have had power. There may be a mother who needs that electricity because she's in the hospital. Sure. Doctors need to provide that service, but they can't do it because of vandalism. Right. Now, there's a month where, for example, you spend 1.6 million kwacha just to replace some of the things that are stolen. People go as far as to vandalize transformers. They steal components from transformers and they go and sell those. And it costs ZESCO 1.6 million in a month. Now you can imagine if every month you're spending 1.6 million. Wouldn't that 1.6 million go to buying materials and meters and duplex cables that will be used to connect customers? Vandalism is a major problem that we have as ZESCO Limited. Sure. And we continue to appeal to community members, please, let's respect public property. I know that people also vandalize drainage systems, they vandalize water pipes, but this vandalism of electricity infrastructure is a scourge that we need to deal with as a country. Exactly. We can't be doing the same work 3-4 times. Right. That is retrogressive. Right. So
we have another text message from our viewers. This one says, what security measures are in place to protect ZESCO assets from vandals? I think this is the same thing we're talking about. Yeah,
and it's true. The problem is that we have over 800, kilometers of transmission infrastructure in the country. Right. And sometimes you can't employ people to guard every meter of the infrastructure. So we normally depend on community goodwill. Sometimes we give contracts to community members for clearing the lines or the transmission lines so that it's clear. And those people actually do a good job at protecting the infrastructure and ensuring that people do not vandalize. So we have a security wing, we have a security team that works with the different security teams in the regions, but they are not enough. We can't guard. The infrastructure is spread across the country. So we really need to work together with community members to sensitize each other, to educate each other, but also to prevent this reckless behavior of vandalizing public good. But that's a very good question. We hope is one of the people who are helping by educating others to ensure that we take care of our infrastructure.
Exactly. So lastly, would you advise consumers to use alternative sources of power?
Yes. We continue, and someone did ask, ZESCO, you sell power. Why do you want people to use less power? Yeah, why? Instead of making money, people think that the carelessness of consumers must benefit ZESCO. No, we know power is not cheap. Power is expensive, and alternative sources are better. ZESCO subsidizes the power that comes to your home. We buy that power for about 11 cents on average, 11 cents. And you can calculate. Someone will say, but this man likes talking in cents. It's because the units are denominated in dollar or in cents. So it's quite stable. So if we have these fluctuations in the change of the exchange rate, then ZESCO suffers more, in a way, because it's denominated in dollars. But then we buy at 11 cents. You can multiply the 11 by 18 to get the kwacha equivalent. And then we sell it at 3 cents or 4 cents. Maybe if it goes up, maybe 5 cents. But on average, about 3.5 cents. That's how much we are selling it for. So it's a tiguli samalai palos. So we need to work together. To ask you
how ZESCO actually makes
how do we survive?
Money.
How do we took a line to Feira and Ruangwa at $81 million. $81 million to Feira. 150 kilometers transmission line there. When is ZESCO going to recover that money? The entire Western Province is actually connected to the grid at over 200 million US dollars. Right. When is ZESCO going to recover that money? Let's just work together to ensure that this public good goes to everybody, and will continue to be more efficient, and ZESCO will continue to advance technological advancement so that we become better. Sure. And we depend on our customers to work with us and to support us as your company.
Exactly.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kunda, for
Thank
joining
you.
us. In fact, Dr. Kunda, for joining us on
Even Mr. is good.
Okay, so viewers, there you have it. We were joined by Dr. John Kunda, who is the Senior Manager Corporate Affairs from ZESCO. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back with more news after this.
Welcome back. You're watching News Report. I'm KAMOTA MAYONDI.
And I'm SALIFYANJI BWEUPE.
Yes, and that was a really good interview that we had there. Lots of information, and I just really enjoyed the flow of the conversation.
Exactly. And just to understand that the smart meters are not going to end load shedding. So that's not the alternative to ending load shedding.
Right.
They're just, going to help in monitoring consumption of power.
Right. Yeah. And it's also just good to have misconceptions being addressed, right? Yeah. So that people know exactly what that means.
Sure.
Getting into it, before we went on a break and before the interview, we looked at the story where the Lusaka Magistrate Court premises was disrupted by a PF cadre who was trying to get access to the court in a highly blocked off area. So we saw that particular video clip. So my thoughts on it are, I'm never going to feel okay when the police are very rough. Like there was the whole toss, like, well, I think there was even being hit with the shambok. Right. So for me, those, I never quite, I don't agree, regardless of who it is, citizen or kada, like, yes, because it borders that, you know, it borders that.
I don't know how it's different, you know, between the police and the courts, because you are innocent before you're proven guilty. Ideally, or otherwise. Yes. Yeah. So I do agree with you. Why should there be some brutality or roughness, you know, involved in handling of a particular case?
Right. Yeah. So for me, that would seemed a bit excessive, the way that they were like starting to hit him. It's good that they have stepped up to show that there's no favoritism, because for the longest time the public has been concerned with the lack of action being taken by the police when it comes to dealing with supporters and sympathizers of the ruling party. So this particular show was a stance to say that, look, the law is the law. This place is closed off.
Exactly.
We do not choose or select who is for which party, what is going on here. If it's wrong, you're wrong. We're going to deal with you.
I'm tempted to say, what was he thinking?
This is the thing,
He goes there with a traffic blue light and forcing his way through the police.
Right.
What would give someone such guts or confidence to actually do that?
Right, and you raise an interesting point. Where does someone get the audacity to behave like that? But it just goes to show where we've reached as a nation when it comes to the impunity with which cadres are seen to act with. So it's definitely one of those things where this person feels like, I'm above the law. I can simply have access to this place. I have a blue cone light, a blue light that will grant me the access. So definitely we have, unfortunately, allowed this to go on too far, that we now have people who are not average citizens. They're above everyone else. So that is definitely problematic. And getting into our next story.
So in the next story, 19 people, including 3 members of parliament, have tested positive for COVID-19 at parliament. The clerk of National Assembly, Cecilia Mbewe, has announced in a statement available to Live TV. Ms. Mbewe revealed that 3 members of parliament, 6 non-staff, and 10 members of staff tested positive for COVID-19. So she added that in order to manage the current situation and prevent further spread of the virus, the National Assembly of Zambia would continue to operate under strict guidelines as recommended by the Ministry of Health and as provided for in the National Assembly of Zambia temporary standing orders of 2020. And in another related story, Airtel Networks Zambia PLC has announced the closure of its head office located at the corner of Addis Ababa Drive and Great East Road, Lusaka, due to 1 member of staff testing positive for COVID-19. Airtel Zambia head of corporate communications, Yuyo Kambi, revealed this in a statement and disclosed that this has been done in line with the Ministry of Health Public Health guidelines. So Ms. Kambi says the head office will remain closed to both the public and members of staff until further notice, and has advised Airtel customers to visit other centers for any urgent assistance. So she added that members of staff will continue to be available electronically, with customers also encouraged to use self-help portals and Airtel Money for monetary transactions. So the statistics stand at 1,895 as a total cumulative COVID-19 cases, with 1,412 recoveries and 42 deaths recorded so far. So here we see, more people, being tested and coming out positive with the COVID-19. And I know now the relaying of the message of the cases now has changed. Is it every Monday and Fridays now? Just for, to give an update of the cases that have been recorded, and I believe that testing is still going forward. The president did mention in his address because of the cold season, so the cases may go up, and that is what we are seeing right now. But I want to also bring your attention now to something that we've already discussed, before on the show, to say how people have, I think, become careless, and really some people perceive that COVID-19 does not exist, that the coronavirus does not exist anymore. But look at the amounts of deaths that we are receiving, and it's quite worrying, eh?
Extremely worrying.
Yeah.
Extremely worrying, because we've definitely seen a reduced mask wearing has become very, very lax. There's been a day I went to a grocery store and some people were in the shop with no masks.
Yeah.
And it's just gone back to business as usual, which is unfortunate, especially now that we have a spike in numbers.
Sure.
And it's important that we just remind ourselves, like we did when we just started receiving cases in Zambia with regard to COVID-19, wearing masks, social distancing. And I think it also might be that things have started to open up, because initially, well, now it's colder, and ironically, we have seen more places open up, public spaces. So we'll definitely have more people interacting with each other. We'll definitely see numbers going up. But it's important that even as we enjoy the facilities that are now open to us, we're maintaining the social distancing, sanitizing. Because even some shops, have you noticed some shops no longer have sanitizers?
Exactly.
Or even like running
sure.
water in the little bucket tap arrangements. So we need to get back to having our guard
And
up.
I don't know, but I feel like also that when it comes to people that are being asked to self-isolate, I think most of those are being a bit careless. I doubt that they're staying in their homes. I feel like when they're isolating themselves, they're still going out in public and they're still spreading this coronavirus. So if you were found, if you're tested positive, the best thing to do for yourself is to stay home.
Right.
You know, that's the only way we're going to curb, you know, the spread of this virus. Then I don't know what you think about this, but I feel like now we have gotten to a point where we should get to a point where some of these names, you know, should be revealed of who has, not to the public, no.
Okay.
But if you are like in your workplace and there's someone that has the COVID, maybe it should be told to you to say this person has, and you need to get tested.
Well,
look, the thing is, I would know who I was in contact with.
Right.
But there's someone that probably didn't know I was in contact. You know, like I have the virus, and we don't know each other like that. So it would be hard for me to go back and say, okay, I was in contact with this person.
Okay.
I don't know, just for easy
easy contact tracing.
Exactly.
Well, I do agree in part to say that the person who has been in contact should, of course, do the whole declaring where you've been, who you've seen. But I still think it's a very gray area with regard to how much information of affected people do we want to have. I think internally, if it's possible to just say, look, if anyone interacted with, for example, SALIFYANJI between these dates, you may have been exposed, and you go through the whole process.
Should the same thing also be done? The whole idea of having to write down your name and number when you go to a restaurant, or so, the same way it's happening with the banks?
Ideally, I think it's important that we do have a system where when you go out to eat, you have people. Well, I think maybe that's why some places ask for reservations, for example, so you know exactly who came into your particular premises at such and such a point. But in certain areas, intimate relationships are more possible, where you know who comes to your salon, or you know there's that familiarity.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's possible. And so we get into our final story, which is in international news. So Twitter is scrambling to fix a major hacking of its systems that have seen fake messages being posted to some of the most followed handles in the world. So some of the handles affected by this particular hack is former President of the United States of America, Barack Obama, presidential nominee Joe Biden, and Amazon boss Jeff Bezos. Al Jazeera's Victoria Gattenby reports.
The fake tweets were only on screen for a few minutes, but long enough for people to capture screenshots of several before they were removed. Twitter's confirmed unidentified hackers broke into the accounts of high-profile politicians, tech company billionaires, and celebrities in a scam apparently designed to lure people into sending money to an anonymous Bitcoin account. Twitter followers were offered $2,000 for every 1,000 they sent.
This was an account all about opportunity, and what you're seeing is, very high-profile people reach a lot of people very quickly. Bitcoin is something that can be turned into cash very quickly, anonymously. So I think somebody found a very clever way to extract a lot of money from people in a very quick amount of time.
The hack might also be a demonstration of Twitter's weak security control as campaigning steps up for the presidential election in November, a contest in which Twitter is likely to play an influential role. US President Donald Trump's account, which has more than 83 million followers, was not among those hacked. Chief Executive Jack Dorsey said, "Tough day for us at Twitter. We all feel terrible this happened. We're diagnosing and will share everything we can when we have a more complete understanding of exactly what happened."
I think we're probably very lucky that the people who took it over chose to use it for such a crude scam, really. I think it could have been very much more impactful. I can't really imagine different ways it could have played out, but I think we were quite lucky that this vulnerability has been surfaced in a way that was relatively benign.
The Bitcoin account mentioned in the fake tweets received 12.9 Bitcoins by the end of Wednesday, equivalent to around $114,000. Roughly half that sum in Bitcoin was withdrawn from the account the same day. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
And there's a story on cybersecurity, and we have seen Twitter just coming. It's very sad that this happened, especially the number of accounts, prominent accounts. We saw Kanye West, we saw Barack Obama, the official Twitter handle for Apple. And yeah, it must be a very tough day. You can imagine if that happens at work. It just must have been a very tough day for Jack Dorsey and his team. And on that note, that brings us to the end of the news report, and we'll just go through the stories that we led with. Over to you, Sally.
So today we led with the COVID-19 hits Parliament, Airtel shuts down head office, Chitalo Chilufya pleas not guilty, police manhandle cadre, and Obama Kardashian and other Twitter accounts hacked in Bitcoin scam. So this is all we had for you in today's episode of News Report. This has been SALIFYANJI BWEUPE
and KAMOTA MAYONDI
saying good night and God bless.
See you.